Hello, all my favorite people. Reformation dropped a pair of bias pants in silk, and I have to say they are beautiful. But I'm going to save myself $250 by making them myself. I already have fabric in my stash for a long time. I know how to make the pattern, so it's basically free. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do today: save myself $250 by making a pair of pants myself. Let's see if I can pull it off to make them look as beautiful as they are on the website. Okay, so let me give you a quick look of the bias. So the fabric is woven in a certain way, which makes it, for example, this silk non-stretchy, because it's woven like this and like this. So both ways, there's no stretch in this fabric because the weave threads are no stretch and they are just straight up there. But if you would grab it and pull it 45 degrees, which means now the grain lines, the weaving lines are diagonally. Now you can see if I pull here, so no stretch here, no stretch here. But if I grab it at the bias, do you see that? It's very, very stretchy. And you also see that when you drape it around your body. So this is straight down. If I would make a pants or a skirt, it would look like this. Pretty stiff, just straight. And now if I would turn it into 45 degrees angle, so like this, and now drape it around my body, that's insane. Do you see the drape and the difference? This is so smooth and it flows with me, while the other drape is way more stiff and therefore way harder to look good around your body. So that is what makes this pants so special, though, that they are cut on the bias, because other than that, they're pretty simple pants to make. It's just a straight like jeans. And I went on the website and I could even find the inseam length, width of the leg and the rise, so I can basically copy the pants based on patterns I already have, and I'm going to make on top of the information that they put on the website. So I'm going to show you how I create the pattern for that. I will first go off with the pants that I own, trace that as my basic, and then adjust it accordingly to the measurements I saw on the website. Okay, so everything we are going to use is paper, scissors, something to draw with. I will go with this big blue marker to show you what I'm doing. If you have it, a French ruler is very helpful for pattern making. Not necessary if you're tracing something else because you already have the curves, but if you want to perfect them or make them a bit better, then that can be very helpful. Pattern paper and fabric scissors, and of course your silk fabric, and then a pair of pants that you're going to copy, preferably a bit in the style that we are going to make. I am now going to lay everything flat here to show you how I'm going to trace these pants. Oh, and pins are also helpful in tracing the pair that you already have. Checking if you can see me. So these are the pants that I'm going to use. They are the same, kind of the same fabric and kind of the style that I want, just a white leg and everything. The only thing that I'm going to change is this is white and I want that to be loose. Plus this is not on the bias, as you can see. The stretch is when I pull diagonal, so it's just straight on the fabric. And we don't want that. Now what you are going to do, I'm facing right side at the moment. You want to flip this inside out so that you're facing all the seams, which will make tracing way easier. And then look for the front. So this is my front, this is my back, where the tag is. And I'm going to put one of the two legs, doesn't really matter which one, inside the other one. So just pull this inside the other leg and then weave it a little bit to make everything straight. And here's where your pins can come in handy. And you're just going to pin exactly next to the seam line to make it lay nice and flat. It just helps, as you can see, with lying the seam more flat so that it doesn't curl up while the other leg is in here. So just pin this all the way down, and also can be helpful at the bottom. Also very helpful to do that the center front. Pin it a few times here to make everything nice and flat, and same for the side seam. You want some room on both sides to be able to play around with changing things. And here at the top we have the crotch and everything that is a bit harder to. So starting at the crotch, point here and try to follow not the outside lines, but really the seam line here. Let me show you a close-up on my phone. You're going to trace the actual stitch line. because that is where we are going to stitch, and this is with seam allowance. Or you have to be very specific with yourself that you are tracing with seam allowance, as long as you're consistent. So choose one of the two and then go from there, but notice for yourself that when you trace here, seam allowance is included. So first point I make is right here. Let's do with seam allowance. And now I'm basically just going to make dots. I like to make dots because we are just going to make it straight with the ruler afterwards. Okay, and now what is important is that you hold it here while you stop the tracing, and we want to go to this point. We need stretch in this fabric because we want the stretch measurement because it needs to go over our hips until I reach the new point, and then when I let my left hand loose, it pops up. So make sure that everything here is correct, and then this is the point for the side seam. Make sure that everything is laying nice and flat, and make your first dot as your starting point. Not cutting this out or anything because I want to remeasure the measurements we just saw on the website as well. Now I'm going to do the back. Okay, the back is a little bit more difficult because my dog is here now and because it's the back. I'm trying to see if this works. So if you look at it closely, if I pull this all the way straight, then this overlays a bit towards here. So we need to make two shifts, not only here at the top, with the stretch, but also here where it overlays. Okay, that is a brief explanation of that. Other than that, we are just chasing the side seam, the inseam, the same way. I thought I bought a dog, but it's a land shark. Again, we will start here at this spot, laying everything completely flat so that it lines up nicely. This is not going to work. I put him in another room. So lay this as straight as possible, of course. So I mark it down here. Same thing, I'm just going to make dots, place this as flat as possible and trace it in a natural way. So not pulling anywhere on the fabric, just laying it. And then this is the ending point. Same thing, grab it, pull it, and let it go. So if this is your crotch seam point when it's completely flat, when I open this, I see that this is the actual point. So this width needs to be added here to the side seam. So I'm going to make a small little mark. So I marked it here, and now I measured that difference, and this is going to be the distance that I'm adding here. And then from that point, I will do the rest of that side seam by laying it open. Grab your loose measuring tape, grab the measurements that we got from the website. Okay, the front rise was 27.9 centimeters, so I'm just going to go for 28 and see if that matches the front rise here as well. And you want to measure the curve, so not straight but the curve. And I just follow the line, and that is 27. So I want to add 1 more centimeter here. You can add it or just write down +1 and cut it on the fabric, but I'm just going to add it. The inseam was 77.5, and that means that I need to add 2 centimeters here. And then just to be sure if it's going to fit over my hips, I'm going to measure the top. That is 96. That is enough to go over my hips. A very important part in this process of the bias pants is cutting it on the bias. So I'm going to show you how I lay out my fabric flat and straight. So no stretch here, no stretch here. The stretch is here. And now I'm going to fold it in a 45-degree angle. So I've cut out the 2 pieces, and we only need these 2. So that's it, the front and back on the bias, and it already looks really nice. And now let's get everything ready to go sewing. So basically the sewing up the pants is easy. It's just sewing the inseams, side seams, and then the crotch seam, and then put in an elastic. I'm going to use very thin elastic because I think that looks good. And then for the hemlines, that can be a bit more tricky when you sew with silk. So I'm going to use interfacing for that to, make it look really nice and clean. But I will show you that when we are at the step in the process. Ta-da! So I've sewn up the pants, and the only thing you want to make sure when you sew with silk is just basically sewing up a pants, nothing special. Just take your time. I put my settings to slower so the machine doesn't go as fast. I pin more, I unpin. Normally I just leave the pins in, but I unpin to make sure I'm not getting any pleats in the side seams or whatever. And now I will just give it a good press, and then I will do the waistband at the top with the double fold and the thin elastic, and then I only need to hem it. But first let's try it on really fast to see what it looks like. So I cut out 2 straps of interfacing, but I'm not going to use it with my iron, so I'm not going to iron it on. You also have other material for this. It's just material that you can stitch on that reduces the stretch in the fabric and the movement. Because when I will sew this with moving, then it will be like this and it goes outwards. I want to prevent that, plus I want a very small little seam. So first I'm going to pin this good side all the way around and then sew on top of that, and then I can fold this inwards and fold it inwards again to have a small little, how do you say that, small little hem. And then I can tear this off by just tearing it from the fabric, but I will show you step by step. So first, pin this and make sure it's the non-stretch. So you have stretch here, but we want the non-stretch here. And that is going around the pants. And I'm just making sure that the glue is facing me and not the pants. Okay, next I will show you the steps of folding. So if you have it stitched on top like this, you're going to take this up and that makes this fall down, but you want that to fall open. So it should be looking like this. And then if you don't have interfacing but the right material, you can press this down. I will just go over it with my fingers to make it very, very nice and tight. And then you fold over the seam itself. And those steps of folding are very important to be able to tear off the interfacing at the end. And then I will just pin it, make everything nice and tight. And now I can very easily stitch over this without getting wrinkles or that it stretches out at the bottom. It will just be a very nice small hem at the bottom. So I will stitch this and then show you what it looks like. But how good does this look? I will give it a good press for sure, but inside and outside it looks amazing. And now I can just tear off all of this. As you can see, it's not interfacing is not strong when you did not iron it. Make sure that everything is nice and clean. I'm obsessed with how the seams look. Okay, they are done. They honestly look so nice. And that really comes from, trust me, from cutting it on the bias tape. If you want to, you can do both of them. Don't do it and do one with, and you will see the difference, but trust me that this will look better. Look at that. And that was it for this video. Recreating things, not buying it, but making it, because why not? If you can sew, you can do things like this. And it was basically for free because I had the fabric. I made my own pattern. So I'm very happy that I'm able to do that. If you want, you can join my community if you have a link in the description for more sewing inspiration, live calls, pattern breakdowns, dive a lot deeper into pattern making there. And don't forget to leave a comment what you recently made, maybe that you saw in stores and you're pretty proud of making it instead of buying it. And then don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.